you. I didn't even finish the thought because I got asked the question. But this is an auspicious day for many reasons. And as we always do, if you're able, could you join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I get a motion to accept tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All right, so first by Deb, second by Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
So there's some debate about how to do this, but I think we should jump right into a very important matter, which is recognition of one of our esteemed trustees. I almost started reading something about fund balance, so that'd be terrible. How do we begin? Should I
You
just
can,
do it?
I can.
Yeah.
Jump right in.
Deb, all I can say is that I want to be like you. You are such an amazing trustee. You are so well prepared. You know how to engage your colleagues and the folks that we work with on the administration in such a really constructive and insightful way. And I've always thought of you as a model for us and for any board. I'm going to start getting a little verklempt already just to think that you won't be there by our side supporting us and making us the best board we can be. In fact, you've laid the groundwork to help us continue to be an effective board with the deep work that you did on developing our governance handbook. And that's just one of many, many ways in which you've done some really heavy lifting on your time here on the board. And I know that you've been able to really, on any number of discussions, to add a voice that everybody listens to and respects. And you've made me a better executive team member with your really helpful and thoughtful suggestions, which I always appreciate. So thank you for that. And I would love to say some more, but I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in with some words here. Maria?
No pressure.
I know that my time as a school board president is quickly coming to an end. There's some relief because it is a lot of work. And what I look forward to is sitting in your seat, being that person just outside who can ask. I look forward to getting back to the type of work that you do, to look back at prior meetings and what's been said in the past, reading every piece of material that's put in front of us, thinking about the implications going forward. Again, you really are a model board member, and we are going to miss you deeply.
Thank you very much. You will be much happier.
Yeah, I think so. And someone fouled up, and that's me, because I think we wanted to have a more colorful presentation, but I hope you won't be disappointed by a small recognition of
Something to...
and it's also helps with the transition.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
For the real thing.
Yeah.
I get the notebooks. I want the notebooks.
Yeah. But that's right. I failed to mention there's a sound effect that really speaks about what you bring to this board, which is when you're ready to make a point, out comes the binder to the page. Really? And it's like, wow, someone is prepared.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
We've already called the binders, so sorry. That ship has sailed, Dave.
Darn it.
Happy to pass them on.
Yeah, I think they actually belong in district archives, and they will be passed on to the district clerk. And I can say that within the district office, a couple times, there's been instances where we've had a question and we're thinking we have to go dig something out, and we've joked, we could just call Deb and know that you would be able to flip to it. But Deb, on behalf of the district, and then of course personally, I do want to thank you for 3 amazing years. And when we think of your service and your dedication to your community, it's really above and beyond to think of all the ways that you've contributed to the village of Irvington. And Certainly, you were deeply involved in the school district long before my arrival 7 years ago. But I do reflect back to the capital bond in 2014, and to think in district's recent history, you played a critical role in two major things with capital projects, and really leading the charge with the field initiative, being the chairperson and author of the report that contained the recommendation that resulted in the new Mazzaros Field, Ole Track, the renovated East Field. You played a critical role in the district at that point in time, and when you decided that you're going to run for the board, I knew we were in for great things. The day-to-day relationship and your function sitting in that seat has been exceptional. And as Michael referenced, your work in helping laying foundations for future boards has been critical. I even think of our last policy committee meeting, where those meetings have been grueling, very early hours and lots of work outside of those meetings. And you know, Deb did her homework and read and came in with tons of great questions. We walked out with Deb's recommendations to think about and how we can improve our process moving forward, to talk about groundwork. So when we're talking foundation, you are a part of the foundation. While this is only a certificate, you will have a brick that has been ordered in your honor that will be in the courtyard here on the campus. So on behalf of the district, thank you. And here is a little image of your brick.
Very heavy.
And then officially for your service from the district and West Putt School Boards, a little certificate of recognition. And then finally, and coincidentally, and Beth Proper, you have one coming forth as well, from New York State School Board, School Board U, recognition for your leadership in totaling 75 points of professional learning during your time on the board.
Thank you.
So girls, you need to go buy some frames. These are gonna be hung with pride. So, but thank you very much for everything that you've done for the district, and thank you personally for your partnership there.
Thank you so much. Well, if I could say a few words also.
Please.
It would only be pity as my daughters would tell you if I did.
We'll listen closely.
I would also like to say a few thank yous. It has been quite the education for 3 years, and I thank the administrative team immensely for your patience, taking me along on this journey, which I clearly was not prepared for. As much as I did volunteer, as my daughters know, this is a very different role as opposed to being on the PTSA or the IEF or any other responsibility I wanted to step up to. It has been a privilege working, I'll say firstly, with the administrative team. It has not been an easy year for those of us who have gone through it. And Chris, thank you for your leadership. I know that this was a challenging year for many reasons, and I know for every decision you make, it's for children in this district, and I know that it is also done with a lot of thought and care, and I know you care about this village and us and the students, and I'm grateful. Carol, it has been an absolute pleasure working with you on the bonds and the budget. I came into this really, I confessed fully about numbers, and it is not my strength, and you made it easy to understand, highly organized, and I think we were successful in large part for the bond and the budget because of your work, and I really want to say thank you for that because it was a lot of work. You made it look effortless, and that is not the case.
Your partnership as well.
No, truly. Raina, I think I started here with you as principal, and I think when we moved to the district, my family and I, my son was a 4th grader, and we made the move, and my daughter Grace was a kindergartner, and Elizabeth was a 2nd grader. And it was, a difficult time coming into this village, and you made it easier. And my children have gone through their entire school through your guidance and curriculum and instruction. And I truly believe that I am so proud of my children and how hard they work and what they do. And in large part, it's for the work that you've done, especially in the area of character building. So thank you for all the thought that you put into it. To the board members, Michael, thank you for your leadership. This was a really, really tough year. And I will say you stayed the course. You stayed focused. You reminded us of our obligations for confidentiality and privacy. And you reminded us day in and day out that our number one responsibility is to this district and not to get caught up in too many other things. And I think our district's in a better place because of it. So thank you for that. It was not easy. I don't know many others who could have done it. Maria, thank God you came back. I don't know how you did it, but Maria has done this for another term. And I will say that nobody remembers things like Maria Kashkin in terms of people and personalities and teachers and names and details and facts. And this board is stronger because of you and because of that unique knowledge that you bring to it, and I think we're really lucky to have you. And David, what would we do without somebody who has a background in education? I will tell you, David's standards are high, and he reminds us all the time of what our obligations are, and because your own standards are high, I think ours are as well. So thank you for that. And Maura, I have never seen anybody who is so thoughtful in everything you do, in everything you read and say and speak, and you give it great reflection. And when you speak, I listen. So thank you for really taking the time to do that. And Beth, you bring a unique, really perspective, I think, to this board with your background, your experience, and your interest. And I really think we're stronger because of, not only because of you as a lawyer, but because of what you're passionate about and what you remind us not to lose sight of. So thank you as well. One of the greatest pleasures and privileges of sitting in this spot is that I rarely get to work with such a unique and diverse set of people. I usually work with the same types of people, to be honest with you. And I think the challenge of this job, but also the best part of the job, is that we all come together for really our community and for the kids. So thank you on behalf of our family, and I thank you for all that you do. And I'll be on the other side of the table next year, and I get the great privilege of getting to get to know you better as well as a new principal, because as I indicated earlier, I'm lucky to have a senior this year, so welcome. Thank you.
I have to stand up and Hey, I forgot, I do want to rearrange a few things if we can. First of all, though, I would give an opportunity for any comment from members of the community, if you'd like to stand up and speak at the microphone for up to 3 minutes. Do it. This is your opportunity.
They speak at home.
Okay. In that case, what I'd like to do is pull an item from our consent agenda, which would be item 10.2, appointment of a secondary principal, to get from our consent agenda. And if I need to say anything else other than, could I get a motion to?
You can certainly get a motion, and I believe
Before we do
Dr.
any
Corr and I
vote?
would like to say a few words.
Oh,
as
certainly
well.
before we vote. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
So that said, obviously we know that there's a lot of critical positions in the district, and as Deb referenced, the partnership that exists and the different personalities and experiences that one brings to the table makes a district, a team, strong in different ways. We can sit here and look at ourselves as trustees, as district level administrators. However, one of the most important critical positions in a school district is the high school principal. And that said, when we learned that Mr. Cohen was moving on in his career, we were certainly anxious and concerned about what the future would hold. And Dr. Corr leads a tremendous search process and a very, very thorough and rigorous process. And one that delivered us a candidate that we are certainly thrilled to be introducing to the Irvington community tonight. Dr. Corr, would you want to say a couple words?
Sure. So we all know, I think we're talking about Juliet, who's sitting in the audience. So we haven't really said her name yet,
Yeah.
so I think it's
I think we're all afraid to pronounce her name is what it comes down to.
we have it though, Gavargis.
Ms. McCoskey.
So,
McCloskey.
right. Misha,
Mizzy McCloskey.
like
G.
Majora.
McCoskey.
Yeah, so say it for me one more time.
Mizzy McCloskey.
We'll just go with that whole GM thing. Yeah, that works out well. So I would just say, we do try and have a fairly rigorous process. And for me, I would say more importantly, an organic process, one that's really responsive to our needs, the position, and the candidates. So actually, this year, we added in another layer. We have our formal round where we ask this very distinct set of questions that gets asked to every candidate. But it really doesn't allow for a more natural conversation. It doesn't allow for people to ask those burning questions because I don't let them in that setting. But I truly believe, and I think along with our committee members, that if we're really going to have somebody who's a good match for us, then we need to also be engaging in the dialogue and more of the informal conversation. So I would say clearly, Juliet, sort of just, each time you went through the process, and each time I think you left people smiling. I think you left people feeling confident in your experience, in your beliefs, in your thinking, in your ability to articulate your thinking. And I think with each step along the way, we felt like we just got to know you a little bit better. And for us, there was no question along the way that Juliet just kept surfacing and surfacing as a really strong, thoughtful candidate who we believe is going to be a really amazing principal of Irvington High School. So from my seat, I'm really excited. I know I'm not going to be here that much longer, but I am excited to be part of the launch of your career here in Irvington.
Thank you, and we do believe that you have much to offer, and we look forward to you building that pathway for yourself and along with the school community. And the one thing that's come out very clear in this process has been, as Raina said, being such an effective communicator and articulating your thinking, but you really demonstrated a desire to want to know about everybody else and know about Irvington. And you were interested in knowing so much. And when you came to the table, your depth of knowledge about our school and our school district really blew us away. So maybe after talking to Deb, Maria, and Michael, when we couldn't find something, maybe we could have picked up the phone and called you. But that said, along with just your disposition, your warm ways, you've really made some great early connections with the district. And I can tell you, having met with the faculty yesterday, what the buzz that they've heard already is really, really positive, and they're eager to meet you and to partner with you. So welcome.
Well, we have an important task to do, which is, could I get a motion to accept the appointment of Juliet Gevargis Mijimikoski?
So moved. Second?
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Now we clap.
And I just want to say, now that you are as of July 1st, our Irvington High School principal, that we are so excited to have you join our community. Sorry, I'll break a little bit of confidentiality here. When I was on the committee that was involved in having the chance to get to know you, and that's a range of community members and staff members who have a range of roles, what was really remarkable to me is just how uniform the warm response was to your engagement with us. There was just questions left and right. A good number of people involved in that process, and you were able to reach and connect with each person. You spoke to rigor. You spoke to warmth. There's clearly a real affection for students that you have, and for staff, and clearly that everyone will come to know that about you. And so we couldn't be more excited to have you join us.
You'd have to go to the microphone.
Yes.
To get used
First
to it.
first task.
It's recorded.
It's recorded.
So
yes.
everybody in the community is going to have to hear you. So
We can also
please.
see her if she does that, which is
Right.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So head to the microphone just to say.
You can take it off. You can take it off if you want there.
Good evening.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am so honored and privileged to be here this evening, and thank you so much for all the kind words that you've said. And as Raina shared, it was in fact a rigorous process, but what I really appreciated is it also gave me an opportunity to get to know you and to make connections. And what I'll say is I was drawn in by the warmth immediately. So you kind of talked about that. I felt that as well. I felt very accepted. I felt really at home, and I was very excited to go through the process. And tonight I'm just honored and privileged, and can't wait to partner with everyone and join the team. So thank you.
Get used to it. You'll have many nights you'll be able to speak at that microphone.
Yes. Yes.
But someone is also going to let you off the hook in about a minute to say you do not have to stay much longer.
Yeah.
Likewise.
We have some really exciting topics ahead. I know you agree with me on this, Carol. We're going to be talking about our fund balance and our district retirement contribution reserve subfund. This is the stuff that we really cherish. Sorry to lose everyone. But, we'll see you soon. Come back, everyone.
Welcome, welcome.
So exciting.
Very good. Wow, okay, take a breath. That was very exciting. So with that, indeed, we do have an exciting topic, which is how do we appropriately manage our funds? And to lead that discussion, do I hand it off to you or directly to? Yeah.
No, at this time every year, board has to formally acknowledge what to do with fund balance as we begin to close out the books for this year. And as Deb has already referenced, Carol and her team do such an excellent job managing the monies, and we're going through that process, or they're going through that process of closing out the end of the year, going through the annual audit. And with that, there needs to be some formal discussion and direction related to fund balance allocations for next year. So that said, Carol, the floor is yours.
Okay, so again, when we make our budget, a budget is a plan, it's a vision, it's where we're gonna go, but it's never an exact number. It can't be, because if you end up short, you're in a deficit, and that would be a really bad place to be. And the state would come help you manage your district for the foreseeable future, so that's not where we wanna be. So generally, we end with some surplus. And so we have to then decide what we're going to do with that surplus, and we have a couple places, so I'm just going to walk you through the basics. The first thing we always want to do in this district is keep our unassigned balance at approximately 4%, which is the recommended level by the Office of State Controller. So that number next year is 4% of the 1920 budget, or about $2.5 million. It'll be $64,000 more than what we currently have. So part of that $64,000 will go to that, increase that unassigned fund balance. The second one that we must do is the assigned fund balance, because in our budget process, we allocated that $422,500 to the as a revenue category. So we're fortunate to be able to do that as well. So those two pieces are basically musts. Then after that, we have a bunch of reserves that we'd like to then augment if we can. We have our Tax Cert Reserve, our Workers' Comp Reserve, a Capital Reserve, and an Employee Benefits Liability Reserve, and our newly established Retirement Contribution Reserve, which we established at the last meeting, and now we're going to establish the sub-fund for TRS tonight. So what we would be able to do either ERS or TRS. And that would be for the matches in our contributions. So I'll just quickly talk you through each one of them, and then but I'll just give you the philosophy. So again, the Tax Cert Reserve is to pay all the refunds that we have in the process. There's quite a few and still in the pipeline. We want to maintain that fund so that we don't have to borrow it, or eventually we may have to borrow, but at least right now we don't have to borrow to pay those obligations off. Workers' Comp, that's where we have to pay any claims for any existing workers' comp cases. Some of them can be, if they're a bigger case, they can take some extra money, so you need to keep a reserve for that. The capital is the only one reserve fund here where once we decide to spend it, that would require voter approval to spend it. So I always point that out to you. So we can accumulate money up for the next 10 years in there, but then we need to, at some point, ask the voters what we're going to be putting together. I know we've envisioned things like the Mazzaro turf replacement and some of the other types of projects that we would need to do in terms of infrastructure at that point. The Employee Benefits Liability Reserve is for any contractual benefits for retiring employees, such as sick day payouts, vacation, anything like that we had that we're obligated to pay from contractual. And finally, the new reserve, which I just talked about. So that's really for when pension rates go increase, which some years it's up, some years it's down, and those swings, this will now finally help us manage that so that we're not always taking away from programs in the budget. And this is the first time that they're allowing us to do the TRS reserve, the state. This was the amendment in the state budget. And we've been asking for it for a long time in terms of planning. And if you remember when I talked about in our long-range plan, that was one of the things that we can't control, so it now will have some level of control if we can start to establish some reserve there. Especially for years where it goes from single digits to double digits. And they'll always tell you, by the way, it goes up 2 percentage points. So that's not 2%. That's way more than 2% when it goes up 2 percentage points. That could be 8, 10, 20%. So those are the numbers we struggle with. So if I estimate our surplus to be right now at about $1 million, maybe slightly over that. It's hard to say. There's still some things that are coming due and some accruals that I'm going to need to make based on some new information. So if it's around 1.1 million or so, and we take out the 64,000 and the 422, we have remaining money that can go in our reserves. So I would, and we do not have to set this tonight, we basically say that the remaining money will go into the other reserves, so that's kind of a, we do have to say that, but we don't have to say the exact amount. So I would estimate wanting to put approximately 100,000 in our workers' comp reserve, capital, about 50,000, for the new TRS reserve, 50,000, and then anything else remaining would go into the tax cert reserve. And again, if we have a more robust surplus, I may make some different recommendations to the board during the summer before we close our books. And you will be, notified and might make my recommendations. But the resolution tonight just lets us put the money into those reserves, any additional money. Is there any questions?
No, but thank you for a very clear and coherent explanation.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So now we move on to item 6, the Retirement Contribution Reserve Subfund.
So
To establish a
that's it.
district retirement contribution reserve subfund.
So that's what I was just mentioning, that is
Oh.
the establishment of the sub-fund. So when many districts already had a retirement contribution fund, which we put on our last agenda. This is, the sub-fund is now how they decided to make the TRS. It's not an additional reserve fund, it's a sub-fund of the formerly known as ERS reserve, which is really, the full name was always Retirement Contribution Fund. So, we can now put money in it. We can use it for either ERS or TRS. I think we're going to have to designate which of the funds we put it in, but we can make that determination as we go forward. We're going to put approximately 50K, if we have enough surplus to do that, would be my recommendation, just to get it started,
And this is a standalone resolution.
It just authorizes us to establish the fund and to fund it.
Oh, I see, so this, I'm sorry, I took this as,
That we do have to vote on, yeah.
we will vote on that. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the district retirement contribution reserve subfund?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, so that's, that'll be very helpful moving forward. So next, we have our consent agenda, which includes a few topics that are worth talking about briefly. That includes the naming of the Irvington Middle School store in honor of Mary and Jen Bacharach. There's also, I had some questions around our world language. Sure. And I don't know if anyone else has any other topics they'd like to talk about, or I want to be very clear, if there's anything we need to pull from this consent agenda, this would be the time to indicate it.
I'd love to hear a little bit about the music. No questions. I'd just love to hear a little bit about the appointment.
All right, so,
I actually, 8.1, I realized, I'm sorry, I made the assumption that the artwork was there for the board to see, because isn't that part of our policy, the board is supposed to approve the artwork?
The Buildings and Ground Committee does.
The
by
Buildings and
policy,
Grounds
yeah.
Committee approves it and sends it to the board, but the board has to approve the artwork.
It's not that the board doesn't approve the artwork, the board, by policy, the board approves the naming of a space.
Oh.
So we can certainly distribute the image that would be on the plaque to the board.
Okay, I think we should.
could you, I mean, before we get into the details, could you just speak to what the step
Yeah.
we're taking here?
Yeah, so from time to time, in any school district, the community stops to honor any folks that have had a valued commitment or contribution to the school community. If we look back about 6 years ago, we named the library in name of former principal Dr. Scott Mosenthal, and there's a number of other spaces around our schools that have been named in the honor of other individuals. By way of board policy, it is necessary that for such action to take place, that there needs to be a nomination from members of the school community. Such nomination in this case was made by David Sotile, our middle school principal. He did have a subcommittee of teachers and staff members that supported him. Included in that group was also Joyce Chapnick, who had the pleasure of working with the Bacharachs when she was at the middle school, and some other staff members at the middle school. They made the nomination, and then after it was informally discussed among board members, then we needed to acquire permission from Mary to actually give consent to a space being named in her honor. She provided such a letter. And then the next step in the process is for the Buildings and Grounds Committee to review this, along with not only the naming of the space. We looked at designs of a plaque that were created, and it's a green plaque that's consistent with some of the outdoor signs that we see around the campus with the bulldog, and it will specifically say the John and Mary Bacharach IMS School Store with the Irvington Bulldog embossed on it. So that said, as the process moves along, Buildings and Grounds gives their consent for the naming of the space, and then it then comes forward to a board resolution to grant the actual naming. Once done, a plaque would be ordered, and there would be a little dedication ceremony that would be arranged to honor Mary, her career here in Irvington, and many, many years of volunteerism, and of course, the contributions of her late husband, John.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, I'm looking at the policy. It says, upon recommendation by the Buildings and Grounds Committee, the Board of Education shall vote to approve such design plans, including the approval to affix building plaques to any district facility. So I had assumed that including the resolution, but the artwork was going to be there, because technically the board has to approve that. I don't really, I mean, B&G did look at it, and is recommending it to the board, so I think we could waive that, but going forward, I think it should be there as part of the resolution.
How happy are we that Maria is referring to the policy first?
I know.
I'm impressed. I just want to say that. but
Yeah.
We can waive it, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fine. I just wanted to make the point. Okay. So is there any other items? I think,
So, yeah, any other questions related to this? Okay.
Yeah.
This, it is an honor for us to be able to honor Mary and her former husband, John, in this way, so I look forward to approving that momentarily. Additionally, we have some appointments of, as we just approved the appointment of our new high school principal. We also, you had asked about the appointment of the music teacher. Do you want to speak to, that was a big part of our discussion around the budget. So what are we doing in terms of our music program and this appointment?
So, you're appointing tonight Nicole Allison, and we're going to work really hard not to call her Allison, because her last name is Allison. Her first name is Nicole. So,
I know the issue, Michael, Hannah.
yeah. A little bit, maybe, I don't know, similar. Anyway, so Nicole surfaced also through a process at Main Street School. I would say, I think in reading Joyce's letter of recommendation, it says something like this immediate connect. She is a smart, talented person. She actually was already in today, when I met with Joyce at the end of the school day. She was working with Megan Hannon, reviewing the third grade band instrument requests. So some of you may remember those moments when you're waiting to find out what instrument your child is actually going to get. So Nicole came in after school today to actually start to do that work with her. So we're excited. She has background in strings as well, so we feel like she is going to bring a lot of life and a lot of ideas, and really be able to build a music program at Main Street School in a way that's different than it's been in the past. On the flip side, we continue to pursue a person for the position of .6 orchestra. That has definitely proven to be a little bit more of a challenge. I think we have some ideas about how we might be able to engage a particular person who is interested in the position, but as of right now, I think the .6 is making it a little bit challenging. So I think we knew that going in, so we're still playing through some options around that position. position.
Yeah, so, if you don't mind, could we speak similarly about the appointment of the elementary world language teacher?
I would love to speak about that. That was a joyful moment. So Bianca Dasco is currently a teacher at the middle school. If you ask me, she was born to be an elementary teacher. So Bianca also went through the you know the process, all of you know it now, and did really beautifully. But really, when the rubber hits the road, when we go to this, we see the demonstration lesson. And considering that we didn't have a world language classroom to bring her into, so normally if we're hiring an elementary teacher, they're in an elementary classroom, a music teacher, they're in a music classroom. But we didn't have a world language classroom to bring Bianca into, to engage in a demonstration. So we had 2 teachers provide demonstration lessons. We did it in the 3rd grade classroom. That felt like the right place to have them do that work. We use the same standards that we are using for our 612 program, the ACTFL standards, but we focused on a culture standard. So we give them, this, by the way, is a pretty common practice. We give the candidate a standard, and we ask them to develop a lesson based on that information. The person, the candidate has the ability to touch base with the classroom teacher to ask any questions and to prepare. So we saw 2 candidates, one actually back-to-back that day. Bianca we timed it, 17 minutes into the demo lesson. Demo lesson's about 45 minutes. 17 minutes until she spoke English. She engaged those kids in Spanish from the second that she walked in the door, and they knew and understood everything that she was saying based on her visuals, based on the way she engaged them. She had movement. She also demonstrated how she could make a 45-minute lesson a really valuable and viable lesson, in that she had a mini lesson with the kids on the rug with a lot of movement, and then followed by kids going and doing a group activity around the room and then bringing them back to the rug. So it was a really classic elementary lesson, what you would expect to see of a good elementary teacher. Allie Tempest, our department chair, was with us and also verified that she spoke the language beautifully, which is always something, even in a program like this, you want someone who speaks beautifully. So we are really excited. I think for us, we knew the challenge going in was finding someone who was dual language. That is a very challenging goal. But we feel optimistic that next year we're going to be sitting in this room. Well, some of us will be sitting in this room and voting on a budget that includes another language teacher. We're already thinking and planning with that in mind of what it would look like. So the plan will be for this year for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, but certainly with the goal and expectation that hopefully for the following year there'll be a French-Spanish component, so kids will be getting half a year, not necessarily divided in half a year, but a half a year of French and a half a year of Spanish. So, yeah, we are really excited. Today, actually, I sat with the language teachers, the secondary language teachers, for a little bit, and Allie Tempest, to talk about the planning, Bianca's planning and the support, and we're also identifying who would be a good mentor for her. Not necessarily a language mentor, but somebody who can support her in developing a program. So, yeah, I think we are really excited.
That's great. Clearly very, very talented, and what a vivid story you shared with us, so we appreciate that. I think we want to have a little sense of conversation, but I know a few trustees around the subject you had, which is this is a growing program, so I don't know if anybody wants to jump in here.
I guess, this is, I think, the concern that some of us expressed throughout the process, that if we weren't able to have a dual language teacher, what would it look like and what's going to happen. So I think it would be helpful for us to understand not just bringing in a French teacher next year, but how do we think that how we envision the split and how we're going to make sure that we engage all the students in a French component, hopefully, I guess a year from now when we're having that discussion, so that we can make sure we provide the support to the French program going forward.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that? I'm a little concerned about next year's fifth graders only having Spanish, being exposed to Spanish, and then it possibly skewing their
So-
choice.
And I probably still have it because I have every file since 2001, since I started here, I think. I will tell you, our data has never shown that. So when we had the program at the middle school, at Main Street School, we purposely did French first because we felt like we wanted to make sure that all kids had exposure to French before decision-making time. At the time, you had to select your language in about January, early February. So we always did French first in fifth grade and Spanish second. Our numbers, and if you look at the middle school numbers and how it splits between French and Spanish, it is consistently the same for my 18 years here.
Okay.
And we could talk about the why, but like, why?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of factors that go into language selection, and it really does remain consistent. Having said that, Maria, I will say that we will be sure for next year, we will, because we got rid of, I shouldn't say got rid of, because language was eliminated in fifth grade a few years back, we've had the language fair where they've come down. So we'll certainly do something still so that our fifth graders understand even what language selection is. Just because they're getting language 45 minutes a week doesn't mean they understand what it is in sixth grade, especially if it's a new family, a first time or going into the middle school. So we will definitely put something in place around that. And as I said, we've done this before, the split, so I don't think it's that complicated. Obviously, we'll have a plan in place to ensure, though, that every year will be French and Spanish. Like, it wouldn't be a year of French, a year of Spanish, a year of French, a year of Spanish. Like, we've talked through those options and what's viable based on knowing that once we knew we were only getting one teacher, in all likelihood, we were not going to get a dual language teacher. And we didn't have one person apply that was dual. Nor French.
She said you had no one who applied who was even French. So is that a concern for next year, given what we saw, that we're going to be in the same position where we're not going to find someone who can handle the French component?
Well, you may remember when we rolled out and I shared the proposal with you, Erin also shared it. The feedback we've gotten from any of our neighboring communities who have a language program is the most challenging thing in having a language program at the elementary school is staffing. So there's no question. I would be foolish to be sitting saying, no, it'd be no problem. Of course, there are positions in schools that are challenging. This will be one of them, but we'll just have to be creative in how we recruit, maybe, tapping into different places that we might not have tapped into previously, maybe somebody right out of school, which is not normally a path that we follow. So I think there are certainly ways we could be proactive in recruiting.
And with some of the other programs that we're getting off the ground, I think of the K-5 guidance, how will the French be reflected in this first year of developing the program, in the sense of, you just figure that out later, or are you you're talking about the balance of, French and Spanish in the future? But.
Well, I think, to be honest, our program now, in our revision of our curriculum, the French and Spanish teachers build their curriculum together, and they just do it in different languages. So the unit is actually the same. It's called sixth grade language, and this French teacher does that unit through the language of French, and the Spanish teacher through Spanish. Right. So, and I would say we just have an incredible language department right now. Our world language teachers, they are impressive. And as I said, I sat with 4 of them today talking about this. So I think there's going to be a ton of collaboration. And, I would also just put a shout out in for Allie Tempest, who is an extraordinary chair.
Right.
Her leadership is really been critical.
Right, and to piggyback on what Michael was saying, for a minute I forgot your name.
You're going to call me Hannah.
Yeah. So it seems like Ms. Duscal is prepared, like when she's creating the program, she knows that the idea is to build it up for French to come in. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And the language teachers are very supportive of each other. Like, there's not some competition here about, oh, let's do one and not the other. I mean, I think the goals are so common right now that it's, I think it's a perfect time for us to be taking this next step.
And just unrelated, but maybe a little bit connected, is that you speak of the commitment to French language and all of our entire language program, that the board will be seeing this week, actually a proposal for a trip to France next year with our high school, and hopefully an approval at an upcoming meeting. So certainly commitment all around to support all the languages we teach.
Very good. Well, I would just turn to my trustees who serve here with me. Obviously, it was a bit of a stretch to do what we did in choosing to only put one teacher into the budget this year, and we talked about it extensively in our budget meeting. And I would just remind us that as we move forward doing this, that we're really making a commitment to support this program going forward. And as we see, each year brings new challenges that we may not expect. So I just want to mark this moment that this is the commitment we've made. All right.
It's my 1 hour into the meeting.
Yes.
I'll mark it.
You'll mark it.
And
We'll bookmark that.
We'll
reflect
bookmark
this.
it?
Yes.
Are there any other questions about any other items in the consent agenda? Okay. With that, I don't believe I asked for a motion, so could I get a motion to accept tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you for that.
And if I can just note, I think it's important to highlight where there's been discussion over the years related to our workers' comp fund.
It's an important topic.
That I think it's important to highlight, that the board just authorized and approved a resolution to actually rejoin a workers' comp fund, so the district effectively is no longer self-insured in that area, which
The shift.
is the responsible shift that Ms. Stein is leading.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thank you for that. I did want to note that earlier, so thank you for noting that. Looks like there will be no further community comments, so I'll move on to announcing our next meeting, which is currently
July 2nd.
July 2nd, our new academic year, which is called the reorg meeting, in which we make many resolutions, appointments that prepare us for operation going forward in the 1920 school year. So that meeting is Tuesday, July 2nd at 6:30 p.m. here in the campus presentation room. And with that, I will.
And before this motion to
Yes.
adjourn, I just wanted to take a second to thank the entire board for your support and all the hard work this year has been acknowledged. There's been some difficult times this year, and all of you have been fine, strong representatives and advocates for the school district, and really have put in a tremendous amount of time and energy. Certainly extend my recognition and gratitude to Michael for your leadership this year, and of course the whole leadership team put in a tremendous amount of time and work, and it's been much appreciated. Also to David on your re-election. You could have been honored alongside Deb today, but you chose to come back for a second round.
And we worked hard to bring Deb back to you.
Oh, we did.
We
Yes.
did.
And of course, as referenced before, I do want to now acknowledge Beth for her achievement in achieving 75 points of professional development. So congratulations, Beth. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Certainly a tribute to your dedication, having done so in such an early phase of your board career. And then, of course, to my colleagues, Carol and Raina, thank you for all of your support and collaboration in helping make this a great year. Pauline, welcome aboard. You've been a great addition to the district the past couple months, and we look forward to working with you in the coming year. And finally, just to say that, as we look to actually close this calendar year, we kind of led a lot of remarks by talking about the challenges. And those are certainly times that we're going to remember, times that we're going to work through, times that have made our district stronger. But I don't want to ignore the great accomplishments of this school year. We've done tremendous work on behalf of our students. Our faculty and our administrative team have done remarkable work. Our staff have been supportive in every way possible, and our students have continued to impress and grow on a daily basis. We've seen evidence of that in the presentations. You've seen progress in our work as recognized in, I think, the last 3 presentations of the school year. And then you step foot into the classrooms as we do, and hopefully you will be able to do next year, or attend any of our student performances. We're fortunate to have a tremendous school district. And so thank you for that, and thank you to everybody that has done that great work, as was referenced last night by Deb. Thank you to all of our partners from the PTSA, the Education Foundation Booster Club, the Village of Irvington, Village of Tarrytown, and every single family that shares their children with us on a daily basis. It's been a great year, a lot of great accomplishments. Let's not allow a couple difficult situations define us. Let's step back and look at what's happened in our classrooms, look at the joy in our students. Think about approved budget, capital project,
Lots to be excited about going forward, right?
Contract, 2 additional contracts where MOAs are in development right now. A lot of great work. So thank you for your partnership, and congratulations to everyone involved.
Thank you, well said.
Thank you.
And I would love to echo all of that, but here we go. I will instead ask for a motion to go into executive session for matters pertaining to employment history.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we shall.